Good morning. Merry Christmas, Kevin. Kevin Petersen, founder and owner of the Chronic Hope Institute,
Yeah. Good
which is
morning, Chris.
an organization that specializes in family therapy, therapy for individuals struggling with addiction, family coaching. All things included, if I'm not mistaken.
But we work with families that are struggling with addiction and codependency all over the country, all over the world.
Yeah, you've
Yeah.
got a couple people that work for you as well.
Yep. Couple of 9 or 10. Yeah.
I'm Chris. I work at the Augustine Recovery Center. I'm the director of admissions, and I also help out with some operational things. One of the things I really have enjoyed doing is working with the families on the front end and then building them up so that they can support themselves and their loved one in treatment through the treatment process. And that's where you and I really find our common ground. Every week we come together and talk about this. We're both persons in long-term recovery, and I wanted to ask you just straight up how you got sober. What was the catalyst? What role did your family play in it? Did they sugarcoat things? Were they blunt? Were you caught off guard? Give me the skinny.
Yeah. Yeah. The deal was for me in August of 1990, I was at a family reunion in San Luis Obispo, California, actually Templeton, California, which is my family founded that town back in the 1800s, which means they were the farmers that lived there. And it was about a 4-hour drive back to Palo Alto. And my dad said, come on, let's drive together. You drive. And 5 minutes into the 4-hour drive, my dad said, so you're my only son and I love you, but you're a liar, a cheat, and a thief. You're an alcoholic and a drug addict. I don't believe a word out of your mouth. And we took a vote and you're out of the family. And until this changes. And I had heard this before, and I thought, sure, whatever. And they held their ground for about 6 weeks. And so at 6 weeks, I did what all tough guy alcoholics do. I called mom, and the conversation with mom kind of went like this: Mom, dad's being mean to me and he won't let me back into the family. And they were waiting for that. And then the setup was, okay, great. Well, now that you've acknowledged that you have a problem, we think you need to go to therapy with dad and talk about it. And now this was 1990. Now today they would have put me in treatment. Mm-hmm. Back then that was the solution. And in that therapy with that therapist, he eventually confronted me, and I eventually got sober. What I hear today in my cases that I work with, the families that I work with, and I think this is critical, and this is, I think, what you're asking and why you're asking it. I hear this all the time. Well, people don't get sober unless they want to. And that is total nonsense. I didn't want to get sober. I didn't want to get kicked out of the family. I didn't want my life to suck any more than it did. And I want to be clear with you. That drive home with my dad saved my life. Mm-hmm. The fact that they were willing to take that chance and hold their ground and say, we love you, but we're not participating in your suicide anymore. And until this crap changes, we don't want to see you and you're not welcome here. And they held their ground. Mm-hmm. That's what saved my life.
Yeah.
That's my experience. That's what I tell my families that I work with, that people that are spiraling out of control with drugs and alcohol and mental health issues don't have the wherewithal, or the clear-headedness to make that choice without outside assistance. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What was your experience, Chris?
Well, it involved, I'm going to be honest with you, it's a little fuzzy because of the substances that I was using in my last year of addiction.
Yeah.
But it certainly involved a really serious conversation with my mom and my dad in the living room of their house here in St. Augustine. I remember it well. And I remember, telling them that I was going to figure it out because I had been court ordered to AA previously. And what I told them was that I was just going to figure it out. And the whole news story with Charlie Sheen walking around with a 5-pound crack rock in his briefcase, that was making the headlines during this time. and like he was telling the news that he was just gonna like, you know, sober himself up and figure it out. And I remember my dad telling me like, so you're just gonna like do the Charlie Sheen thing and just like figure it out. You're just gonna magically figure it out on your own. And
Yeah.
I remember him saying like, I don't have much confidence in you doing this on your own. And I don't remember a lot of the rest of the conversation, probably because I had this mental block up. That was 3 weeks before, you know, shit hit the fan, and I had a moment of clarity, which doesn't always happen. And I knew where to go when I had to ask for help, and you know, I asked my parents for help. But so my story was a little bit different than yours. But when I left treatment successfully and went to sober living, I think they had started doing some work with a family therapist, and they had some pretty firm boundaries financially around, you know, what I was now responsible for. And, you know, I think they paid for my first month of rent and then like half of the second, or maybe half of the second and third, but I was, you know, responsible for providing for myself. I bought my own car. And I also had this like moment of clarity in treatment in working with a mother during family program. Her son either was, you know, an alumni or he left AMA, but it was like a God moment. My parents, I got sober in Minneapolis and I'm from Pennsylvania. My parents couldn't come to family program. It just was too far away, and they, you know, they either they didn't want to or they couldn't come. I begged my counselor to be a part of family program anyway, and I got paired up with a mother who didn't have a patient there, and it was groundbreaking for me. And so in that experience, I realized that I had to stop riding on my parents' coattails if I ever wanted to, you know, be successful in sobriety.
Yeah.
My professional experience with a lot of families is exactly what you're talking about. A lot of people are hoping that their sons or daughters or brothers or husbands or sisters or wives will make the decision for themselves, because the conversation can be very uncomfortable. And oftentimes I find that unhealthy family units are enmeshed in like fear, and we don't want to make this person mad, and we don't want them to never talk to us again. You have to force people to go to treatment sometimes.
Right. And also I was going to say, the family system gets enmeshed in the concept of, we know they're drinking and using, but we think we have control over it.
Yeah.
And if we put a boundary on them and tell them they can't participate in the family system, God only knows what'll happen. And my response to that is, no, they're killing themselves right now, and you're watching it and allowing it. You know, you can't keep them in the basement and allow them to get high and get drunk and think that that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, that's insane. And, you know, let's give them an option. I'm not a tough love guy. I'm not a, you know, slam the door on their fingers on the worst day of the year and say, don't ever come back, we hate you. I'm like, look, we love you, but we don't want you to die. Therefore, we're happy to get you help. But if you don't want the help, we can't participate with you, because you're killing us as well. Yeah. That's really,
that can be a really hard, you know, that can be a hard place for people to get to when they've been enmeshed in their family members' addiction for, you know, for decades.
Oh yeah.
So it's, you know, it's something that I become really passionate about. We talk a lot about this during the Wednesday night support call, which is available for our past and present family members. And I always tell people, nobody's high-fiving their way into treatment. You know, I was court-ordered into recovery the very first time I ever had any experience with 12 steps or mutual support groups. And thank God, because I'm not sure I would have known where to turn, you know, had I not been forced into recovery initially. And our co-owner always says too, you know, she was intervened on and was sent to treatment, and she was furious. And she was furious with the staff and with her family for weeks. but she's been sober ever since. And so Lauren is a huge proponent of, just because you don't want to go to treatment doesn't mean that you shouldn't be going to treatment. And unfortunately, with chemicals these days, the bottom is often,
Quick.
It could be death.
Yeah, that's what I tell people is like, okay, so he's in the ER, he's overdosed, but you're telling me that you think it's his decision whether or not he wants to go to treatment. And I think you're out of your mind. His decision got him overdosed in the ER. So now it's time for cooler heads to prevail and people that are clear-headed to step in and say, yo, this is over, and we're not doing this anymore. And I think, and again, I think that's what saved my life. I actually, when you told your story, what I hear is that that's what saved your life is outside forces intervene. So whether it's the nudge from the judge or, as we used to say in LA, the knife from the wife, or the boss or the family, whatever it is. It's those outside forces forcing you to accept your consequences. And I agree with you. Today with the stuff that we're dealing with, it kills people. It kills people on one try. So I don't, we may not get another chance. So I believe in being proactive and quick. And, nobody ever died going to treatment and figuring out they're not an alcoholic or not an addict. A lot of people die not going to treatment. So,
and for the families who have younger children, 18, early 20s, a lot of these youngsters have a hard time wrapping their head around a lifetime of sobriety, because that's what 20-year-olds do is they party. And that was the fact for me. The first time I went to treatment, it was an IOP setting, intensive outpatient, hours of group each day. And then I got picked up. I wasn't ready to wrap my head around long-term sobriety when I was 21, but I had a head full of recovery and I had a head full of AA, and it was for the better. Like I said, when I was ready to make that decision when I was 26, I knew exactly where to go. I knew what to do. When I did make it to residential treatment, I was just like, I don't know what's back there. I don't want to know. I have a pretty good idea, but I'll do whatever you say.
The gift of desperation.
It's not going to hurt somebody to give treatment.
No, the gift of desperation is what brought me here, and it's what keeps me here. And my higher power keeps me here. But I totally get what you're saying, man. And that's the thing I always try to tell the families I work with. You're expecting someone who cannot think rationally to make a rational decision. And that's where we have to step in for them and make that decision for them. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And they're going to be mad, et cetera, et cetera. As my favorite saying is, nobody ever walked into AA on a winning streak. Nobody met the girl of their dreams, cured cancer, hit the lottery, and thought, AA, that's my next move. It's everyone I know, I'll be 30 years sober in May. Everyone I know with long-term sobriety has the same story. They were intervened on from an outside source.
Well, that'll do for today, my friend. I just realized that I'm late for my son's doctor appointment.
Off you go. By the way, nice beard. Good COVID beard, buddy.
Yep. This is the brawny beard.
Yeah. I love it. I get gray. I mean, I'm all gray. I don't have your mad skills there.
But Brillo pad thickness, so I wash dishes with it.
All right. Okay.
Good day.
All right. Happy holidays.
Chat soon.